everybody, and welcome to live Q&A here. Today is January 29th, 2024. You got questions, we got answers. But before you ask any questions, certainly consider checking out our Kickstarter at dicetowerkickstarter.com. We have a week left here, or 5 days left, starting today. We have a lot of cool stretch goals that we would like to get to, a lot of neat things, and we think we can do it with your help. If you like the Dice Tower in any shape or fashion, definitely check out dicetowerkickstarter.com. We are back to normal is a strong word here. That doesn't ever seem to actually matter, but sometimes it does. So this is a somewhat normal week. We got live playthrough tomorrow. On Friday this week, to close out the Kickstarter, we will do some live gaming. Today we'll be doing a live We'll Play It Live game. We got crowd surfing and board game board game smorgasbord coming this week, and many other things heading your way. So we hope that you enjoy all of this stuff. We got a lot to do. So anywho, yeah, James says, is there a Kickstarter? It's the first time I heard of it. You know, you say that, James, and every year, I swear, as soon as the Kickstarter is over, I get 5 or 6 emails from people going, I didn't even know you were running a Kickstarter. And we're like, yes, we were, but you got to promote these things. And I probably don't promote things enough. You know, I don't push as strongly as I could push. If you want a note of that, check out other Kickstarters to see how much they show up. Yeah, so anywho, let's get started here. Let's see if there's... Will Mike be flying to Iceland in economy or first class? Well, if we made $1 million, I'll fly him first class, but likely we won't hit that stretch goal. Okay. Well, no questions really. And I'm not going to answer what I eat this weekend, and I'm not going to answer that for like, I don't know, 20 times in a row. So don't ask that question. But anyhow, let's see. I only played 1 or 2 games this weekend. I mostly got some relaxation and played a lot of Elden Ring. So that game has been my obsession with video games in my spare time. Been working really hard on my character. Finally beat the fire giant. I'm pretty close to the end, actually. I could beat the game, I think. I've messed around in the final level. I have to beat, let me see, because I know the boss I have to beat. I need to beat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more bosses to win the game, something like that. I'm just going around and clearing out every boss in existence if I can find them, punishing the ones. I still can't beat the ice dragon, but I haven't tried him in a while. So I'm going to go fight the ice dragon, I think, next. And so I'm talking way too much about Elden Ring. Sorry, I'll only answer more if you have specific questions about that. Have you ever considered calling it Dice Tower Plus subscription renewal and see if you can ride that streaming trend? I don't know what that means, actually. Where did you get the wooden board you use for your Ready Set Bets? That someone made it for me, so that was very nice of them. What is your philosophy regarding playing to win? A friend of my gaming group perpetuates a rumor that you once said that your goal shouldn't be to win or something similar. Well, I don't think your goal should be to win at all costs. I'm maybe in sports and when there's money on the line and things like that. But for fun, my goal is to have fun. My goal is never to win. I mean, I try to win. So, and I don't want to hear the Ryan Kenichi quote. But I think you should attempt to win. You should try to win. Try to do your best. But I don't try to win at all costs. If I played a game many, many times and you've never played the game before, I'm going to try weird, unusual strategies. I definitely go easy on my kids in some games, and I'll never apologize for that. I think it's really weird that people do the opposite. They'll be like, oh, I never let my kids have a thing. I play chess, I'll destroy them. I'm like, but you don't do that in basketball. If the kid comes up and you slam the ball out of their hands, be like, well, maybe in 10 years when you're taller, kid. It's just a weird thing that we do only in board games. But I'm getting off subject. Yeah, I don't necessarily try to win that hard. And I don't think anyone's goal should, when you get down and play a game, should be winning. It should be exploring the game and having fun playing the game. We should attempt to win, But I think some people's goal of being winning is so powerful that it makes them not enjoy when they lose, which is insanity. It makes them play slower because they're trying so hard to win that they're ruining everyone else's fun, and it makes them act not as nice to other people. Are you excited about Sam working part-time for Night? Well, yeah, that'd be great. That's why I did it. What kind of question is that? I mean, is it if I wasn't excited about it, I wouldn't add the stretch goal in the thing here. Was there any game that you were surprised didn't make the list of most checked out games at the cruise? Well, you know what? Let me go get that list because I have it. So we can talk about that a bit here. Give me 1 second. All right. There's a lot of games checked out. Here's the checked out data. So let me go through the zeros and see what games were checked out no times that I'm surprised about. I mean, there's a lot of games in here that aren't checked out at all, and I'm kind of surprised. And I know people like the games. Let's see here. Star Realms was never checked out.
Is your audio coming through the MacBook or through the eCam?
The MacBook.
Oh, that's on purpose.
Yeah, we can't figure out the problem. Let's see what else we got in here. Mystery of the Abbey was never checked out. There's tons of games in here that weren't checked out. And this will unfortunately have some effect on things in the future. Jerusalem was never checked out. So much for everyone telling me how great a game that was. It wasn't checked out one time. Haunted Teutonica was never checked out. Wow, so many games that were never checked out. But, there's also not everything can be played. So I completely understand that not everything's going to be played. Arcadia Quest was never checked out. All right, so now we get to the games that were checked out one time. The Captain is Dead. I saw that game being played. Minecraft was checked out once. I'm just jumping through. Concordia was only checked out once. A lot of games are only checked out once. But so jumping to the top 10. So let's see. I'm going to go through here and look at some. Daybreak was checked out 15 times, which was not a surprise. And I'm not talking about the top 10. If you want to know about that, you need to check the video I did about it. Terraforming Mars, the dice game, was checked out 14 times. That one surprised me. Let's see here. After Us was checked out 13 times. Arborea. Ark Nova, still doing well. Dune Imperium, that's not a shock to see that one being the new Uprising, checked out 13 times. Some games are checked out longer. Someone asked in the video, why don't you multiply times time? But we can't do that because sometimes people check out a game at night before the library closes. They put it back on a desk, but it counts as if it was checked out all night. So it was checked out 8-9 hours, and that throws off our stats. And you could say, well, then you should go in and delete those specific instances. And I say, you do that for me, because that's a ton of work. Quest of Quedlinburg, still 12 times, still been doing well. Scholars was checked out 11 times. Lost Ruins of Arnak, 10 times. Septima was checked out 10 times. That one surprised me. It was checked out that much. Mythic Mischief, 8 times. Targi was checked out 8 times. Azul, 7 times. I was saying to somebody that our Shelf 10, which is where I keep our welcoming games, gets used more on the cruise than anywhere else. A lot of Ticket to Ride, Carcassonne, stuff like that was played. Transmissions, Skate Summer. Sparkle Kitty got checked out 5 times. QE 5 times. Kootenai Horror 6 times. Dune Imperium was checked out 6 times, but the Uprising was checked out 13 times. So, if you're curious about a specific game, you can let me know and I can answer that for you. Just says, hooray, and finally beating the fire giant. I don't know what to... It was hard, and even then I still had a hard time, and I'm way over-leveled. I mean, I'm ridiculously over-leveled. I'm hundreds of levels in. And I think that's the only reason I beat him. I mean, I read up on how to beat him and everything, but so far... so I've discovered most of the hidden areas. I get killed more by regular enemies in Elden Ring, more than I do by bosses, by far. You know, I run in and an enemy stabs me, and I'm like, wait, what? And another one stabs me in the back or what have you. You'd be surprised how much I die to them compared to bosses. That being said, Millennia, I finally got to her. She's considered to be the hardest boss, not just in Elden Ring, but one of the hardest bosses ever made in the history of gaming. And I can see why. I've only fought her thrice, or 4 times, and wasn't even close. I got her to half health once. And then she immediately one-shot at me. And I have on some of the strongest armor in the game, tons of life, upgrades up the wazoo. So I don't know that I even care if I beat her, but I might try it a few more times. But anyhow, let's see what else we got here. Is there a way to find out what show episode this past year you named a backer for last year's Kickstarter? I do keep records of that, so you can email and ask, and we can tell you the date that it goes up on. I would ask that not a ton of people do that, because that's a lot of work for us to answer all those emails. But I can tell you that almost 100%, one of them was during the top 100 games, so you're probably in that time frame, and then the rest is spread out somewhere throughout the course of the year. For you, is Royal Caribbean better than Norwegian? Yes. Norwegian was fine, but Royal Caribbean has more of a family vibe to it, which is, since I cruise with my family, I enjoyed that. Have you ever considered releasing an album of all the songs used for the Dice Tower? I don't think anyone's ever asked for that. What do you think about people who disrespect the magic circle and just always help their significant other best friend? I don't know what this magic circle is. Sounds like some made-up internet hooba-jooba-dooby. But if you are always helping your significant other and or best friend in a game, I will not play with you straight up. Come on now. But I very rarely run into that. Usually spouses are attacking each other with joy. How often do you think about the Roman Empire? What? Sometimes. I like to see more of those Kutnahora wooden 3D pieces. The rewood, it's called, where it looks like plastic, but it's made from wood. Do I think it would be the next big thing? No. I mean, but it might be, but I doubt it. I haven't seen other companies picking up on it. Would that work with games like World Wonder? I don't know that I want those pieces to feel like plastic. I really like that they feel like wood. How's your grandbaby? I've seen some pictures of her, but that's about it for the last few weeks. How did you and Sam end up talking about Sam working part-time? It just came to my mind when I was having a conversation with him. I talk to Sam every once in a while. And so we also were on the cruise together, so I talked to him there. How many games a week do you play for reviews? It all depends on what week it is. Some weeks I play 30 different games, and some weeks I play 5, but it averages out nicely. To follow up, I've heard somewhere that games get broken if everyone's goal isn't to win. In some cases, people do kingmaking or do crazy moves which negatively affect others' experience. I'm not saying that. I definitely am not saying you should play like a lunatic to ruin the game for other people. I disagree with that highly. Where someone's like, you know what, my goal in this game is just going to be to collect this resource and see if I can crash the game. Like, no. That's bad too, right? Or kingmaking. No, you should play. Your intent should be to win. I just don't think it should be to win at all costs. Do you like all games? Well, no. That's the whole point of us having a review channel. Or just board games. Oh, you mean... Well, yeah, I like games in general. Now, for me, it's definitely going to be board games. Then probably underneath board games would be role-playing and video games. Sports as a game, I find them to be interesting and everything, but that would probably be the lowest. Outdoor games, things like ping pong and puzzles. Puzzles are pretty high for me too. My favorite game that's not a board game, I don't know, Elden Ring. I'm hoping it's true, but I've heard the Dominion app is supposed to be released to iOS and Android on February 1st. If you have heard that, you have good sources. I'm not as annoyed about it as I used to be. Well, Sam ever asked me to do another top 100. Why not? I would have, but he just did one on his own channel. In years past, you did one segment of your top 100 per day for 2 weeks. This year, obviously, you did 2 segments per day for 1 week. Do you have a preference one way or the other? I'd prefer to do 1 a day over 2. But because we flew Mike in, it's easier to have Mike here for 1 week than it is to have him here for 2 weeks. We have the continuation of the RPG this Thursday. Barring unforeseen circumstances, yes, I'd like to do that. Have you seen the boards for Civolution? This is from Stefan Feld. Have you seen the player boards? I have not. I've seen almost no pictures of the game. Let's see here. Is Mike still a part of the Dice Tower? 100% yes. When we go to a Dice Tower Con, I'll for sure try some of those games I just can't fit at home, like Marvel United, Foundations of Realms, and games like that. As you should. I think a convention's a great place to try games you can't try in other spots. Do you use summons to make Elden Ring bosses easier? 100% yes. And I am mind-boggled that people are like so opposed to that. So what this means in Elden Ring, folks, you go around and it's a big open world and you go and you fight these different bosses. There's like 180 of them, I think. 100 bosses, 80 bosses. But most bosses, not all of them, but most of them, you can summon something. So as the game goes by, you find these little people that you can summon. It might, the first ones you find is either like a ghost jellyfish or a bunch of wolves. But as time goes by, you find all sorts of cool ones. In fact, the coolest one you can find is one that becomes an exact replica of yourself. So you can summon these to help fight the boss, and they just go around as an AI and fight the boss. If nothing else, they distract the boss. The boss will take time fighting them, which will let you run up behind the boss and hit it in the back. It makes the game considerably easier than if you don't do this. So some people consider that to be cheating or to be, I don't know, an easy mode. I don't care. I think the game's already really hard, and I have a hard time beating the bosses with the summons. So I use them all the time, every chance I get, never apologize. That's insane to me that people don't use them. Sort of, I get it. Back in the day when I played Wolfenstein, I finally got so good at the game, I was like, I'm going to go through the game with just a pistol and see if I can pull it off. I get why people do that sort of thing, but for me, I'm happy using them. I just think it's weird. It's something in the game, something you can use, and people are like, psh, psh, you use summons? You better believe I use summons. But the game also allows you to summon another person to help you fight. You can bring in someone else to help you. They can like jump in your game to help fight a boss. That's even better than the summons because they're not fighting as AI. Although I have learned some nice tricks with mine, the mimic summons, which is you. So I will outfit myself as one specific type, like a magic range person, summon him, then quickly switch to like hand-to-hand combat or something. So my mimic will do the one thing I want. I'll do the other thing I want. And I use anything that you have on you. So the more stuff you have on you, the better they get. Am I optimistic about reaching the 380 stretch goal to bring Sam on board? I am optimistic about that. But, tell your friends. Back to Kickstarter. How does it work when people check out a game? Who checks that all the components and stuff are intact? Well, we ask people to let us know when things are missing and broken, and the cruise is definitely very hard in the game. People ask sometimes why why should I pay extra on the cruise to go to the Dice Tower part of it? Well, the gaming library is part of it, but the gaming library is a very cost-heavy thing. We're constantly losing pieces. If nothing else, let's say we got every piece replaced for free from companies, and a lot of companies send us replacement pieces. Not Asmodee, boo. But I'm still paying Wendy to do this. This is her full-time job, basically, from now till whenever it gets done, to fix these pieces. There's so many games with missing in pieces, but we go through them, and I try to get everything fixed. Money a fight, you got her to half health for the first half of the fight, or true? No, the true half health. That's. I mean, again, I already knew about it. It wasn't like it was a big surprise to me. Also, I was telling my kids yesterday, who in life decided that bosses need to come back from the dead? It happens so often in games that I'm learning to expect it. I play any game. It doesn't matter what the game is. You beat the boss dies. You're like, that seemed a little too easy. All right, bring on second stage. And sometimes third stage. You know, you were just used to it at that point in time. Have you considered using board game stats to track all of your plays? I have not considered it because I will never do it. I just don't like doing that sort of thing. To me, that becomes work. I already work a bit. I keep track of every game I play in the sense of I rate them as soon as I play them. I keep track of what games I play from what year. I just don't keep track of the games or the scores and stuff because I just don't care about those stats. Tom, will you come to Bulgaria? It doesn't look likely, but who knows? How do you justify criticizing a Kickstarter version of a game for being overproduced when it's usually deliberately overproduced because that's what the backers wanted? So? I mean, really, so. I'll still criticize it. I mean, my kids want candy for dinner. And if I give them candy for dinner, I would fully expect you to criticize me for that. Backers don't know what they want. I'm like, do you want the biggest, coolest thing ever? And they're like, yeah, why not? And that gets exciting. But at the end of the day, I want a playable game. Again, I'm not opposed to games being really cool and deluxe. I'm fine with that. I think, look at me in the Dice Library. I'd be a hypocrite if I said otherwise. I love having deluxe versions of games and upgrading versions of games, as long as there's an affordable version of the game. But if you want to pay more money, get deluxe. What I don't like are games that are so big and so many pieces, and the box is so huge that when you pull it out, it's just overwhelming. I don't need more stuff. I need better stuff. Upgrade the yellow cubes to little gold bars. That's awesome. But adding in 25 modules that then have to be fit in a very specific way back into the box, I'm less impressed with that. Which Catchapalooza format do you prefer? I don't know what you mean by that. Do you all plan on doing more of the gameplay, the discussion format? Well, yeah, we haven't done a Catchapalooza in a while, mostly just because of the end of the year, beginning of the year. I think next week we have a Catchapalooza scheduled for Monday. And we just play a game, and then we'll talk about it when we're done. Let's see here. How quickly are live streams able to be rewatched? Almost immediately, depending on how long the live stream is. When we live stream Dice Tower TV, it's 7 days long. You can't even watch it. YouTube doesn't have the way for you to go back and watch that one. Do you regularly play solo games? No. Or only when one piques your interest? Yes. I'm taking my kids to Dice Tower West this year. Any recommendations for family-oriented activities in Las Vegas? There's some fun things you can do with kids, like, different games and things in Circus and in Excalibur. Has a kids section in the bottom of it. There's the roller coaster in New York, New York. There is the Pinball Hall of Fame. Now, this is all stuff on the Strip. I'm sure that there are other things outside that, and there's probably some great kids' activities, but I have not ever taken my kids to Vegas and don't plan to anytime soon, so I haven't really researched this subject. Favorite mystery fictional detective? Columbo, Sherlock, Poirot, the Hardy Boys. Oh, I do like the Hardy Boys. I was a huge fan of the Hardy Boys as a kid. I read all their books, and then they rebooted them. They killed Joe's girlfriend in book 1. I'll never forget that. Such a big deal. Like for me as a kid, having a character die in a book, the Hardy Boys never die. It was like crazy. Um, and I was like, oh, later on I realized they did it so that Joe could, because Joe and Frank both had steady girlfriends in the first series, but they wanted it to be so that Joe could date around and do different things. But I didn't realize at the time. I just thought it was a big deal. Yeah, Hardy Boys, Encyclopedia Brown. What other detectives do I like? I don't really love Sherlock Holmes because he's too smarmy. But detectives smarmy, I'm not as big of a fan of them. Perot I like, I think. And I'm forgetting her name. The older lady, not Murder, She Wrote, but the book series, I forget her name. There was an older woman who was really good at solving things. Wasn't there a cardinal, or not a cardinal, a bishop? I don't remember. It's been a while since I've read a lot of detective stories. Oh, I do like the detective in Timothy Zahn's books, the rail system, whatever that's called. Those are really good. Did you watch the new Futurama episodes? I watched a couple of them, but I kind of faded out. I did not love them as much as I thought I would. But then again, I don't know. I forgot about them, actually. What do you feel about the people that make board games? Great! I work for a well-known publisher, and the bosses were really bad people. The games are made by stressed, overworked, passionate artists. Are you talking about publishers? I thought you were talking about manufacturers first, because they're the ones who make the board games. I don't know. I mean, maybe the publisher you work for was not a great one, and I can't speak to that. But every publisher I know works really hard. Do you use a guide for Elden Ring? Well, yeah, actually. I bought 2 big giant books of Elden Ring. I like books for these games. I like flipping through them and looking at all this stuff. What is your pipeline for creating, editing videos? So the week before a week, we make a list of all the videos that are going out that week, assign who's doing what videos to each of those videos. I get that done. I'm already working on next week's list. Then we just come in and start producing them. I start working them now. I've been working on that all day so far. Are there any considerations weighting adding production value and the impact on output? Sure. Mega Man? Why are we talking about Mega Man? The modern plot twist is a boss without a second stage. Yeah, that's true. My husband and I are enjoying Sleeping Gods. Well, we'll talk about adventure games, but I will say there's very little things that are like Sleeping Gods. Maybe Seventh Continent. Have you ever played a game with an app that you thought would have been better if it was designed to not need it? No. Tom, who in your family is the biggest fan of board games? Well, clearly it's me. Where is the line for you that defines an overproduced game? I don't know. Just when you get one, you know it. I think for me, the line is when I sit there and someone says, do you want to play this game? And I go, I don't want to pull it out of the box. I think that's the line for me is just essentially, do I want to play this? It's so much work. If it feels like work just to get the game out and set it up, then maybe it's overproduced. If a company ever approached you about licensing the Dice Tower and you and the crew's likenesses for a game, would you do it? Well, maybe. I don't know. I mean, we have a lot of promos with our likenesses in, so yes. Would you do if it was Dice Tower Monopoly? No, I don't. What? That's not happened. Do you think all the possible mechanics for board game play have been found? No. Yes, everything that can be discovered has been discovered. Oh, do I like the live plays where we discuss the game right after or playing off camera and doing a more organized review? No, I like doing the live thing and getting raw thoughts on it, for sure. You mentioned before about homeschooling your kids. What are your top 3 favorite things about homeschooling as opposed to sending them to a traditional school? Oh, that's easy. Number 1 is I get to choose what's important or not. So we follow very strict curriculum with our kids. They follow curriculum and they go through it. But I have the option to come in and go, that's nonsense. You'll never need that in life. Um, I'll use an example here. There's some more esoteric things. Long division, for example. I say it's important you know how to do long division. Okay? You need to learn how long division works. But you're not going to do it the rest of the year for practice because that's a waste of time. No one in real life ever does long division. You use a calculator. We use calculators for long division. It's important to know how division works. You should be able to do, simple division, like what's 90 divided by 10. You need to be able to do stuff like that off the top of your head. And I want that, and the estimation is not bad. But if I need to know what 93,872 divided by 43 is, I'm using a calculator. I'm going to. I've never seen anyone sit and write out long division. So I have that option as a parent to come in and say, that's not useful, or this is useful, here, learn some more about this, whatever it is. So that's one reason I like homeschooling. 2, I can tailor it to the kid. You can very specifically tailor things. Oh, you like this subject? Well, here, learn more about this. You don't, you have a hard time with this? Well, then we can work specifically with this. You don't like reading? We can work specifically with you to learn to read. But the third, and I'm not saying it's the least important, I don't ever have to sell chocolate or wrapping paper or cookies or participate in or go to a program and watch 2 hours of a program to see 2 minutes of my kid in that program. I don't have to worry about fundraising and all those other nonsense that happens all the time. And I'm not saying that stuff's bad because I definitely did it when I was in school. I ran a class. We needed to fundraise. We did all that stuff. And we don't pay our teachers enough in schools, blah, blah, blah. I get all that. But also, when someone's like, oh, we're selling chocolate bars this week, I think, how nice it is to not do that. It really is. I went to my school when my kids were in school and I said, listen, tell me how much you need for fundraising over the course of the year. I'll write a check right now for it. You need $387. Let me write a check for $387 so that we don't have to show up and run a big garage sale one morning, and so that we don't have to do car washes and we don't have to do all this. And I get that that's good. You're teaching kids to work for things. There's some definite benefits to that. I don't think there's any benefits to kids selling chocolate to their grandparents again, or wrapping paper, or whatever it is. I don't miss that at all. Do you ever cruise without board games? Yes. Chris mentions there's a good children's science museum, but it's far from the Rio. But yes, there's other things. Chris would know more about the area than I would. The French Parliament is discussing if board games are to be classified as toys or cultural products. What? That seems important. They're toys and cultural products, whatever. Miss Marple. That's right. Thank you. She's one of my favorite. Wow, a lot of people said that. Oh, and Father Brown. Yes, he's also a detective I like a lot. What's the king of stereotype Super Bowl party foods? I have no idea. I've gone to many Super Bowl parties in my life, mostly because of the food and or commercials. Nowadays, I don't know that either one of those attracts me. The commercials used to be more interesting, but now I can just get up the next morning and someone will have a playlist of the 10 most popular videos. I'm done. I don't even watch those that much. Commercials, meh. Can I have a party without the Super Bowl mix in it? Favorite resource holders? Oh, they're the ones that we have in our Kickstarter. And I'm not saying that because they're in our Kickstarter. I really love those. I put them in all my games. I think they're fantastic. Do you think you'll ever do reviews on D&D-esque games like Fallout RPG or Old Gods of Appalachia? Well, I don't... You mean RPGs? No, I'm not planning to do reviews on those. Gloomhaven is going to be 6 this year. I've unlocked 4 characters, but haven't been back to since early 2020. I have Jaws of the Lion, but never unwrapped it. Should I retire both? That's up to you. I'm not telling you to retire games. If you want to, go for it. Is it too early to start talking about Essen? 100% it's too early to talk about that. Do you think there's been some gamer fatigue with big legacy games that require many sessions? For sure. There's just something about continuing on, whether it's a legacy or a campaign game, that can be very tiring. It can be very fantastic. You pick one of those, and every week we get together and have a good time, but there's so many of them. And people are like, well, you don't need to buy all of them. Sure, but I do notice the same people do buy all of them. Now people are going to tell me they use long division. I just in my entire life, I've never seen someone sit in a piece of paper and write long division. And if they did, I'd be like, you know, you're holding a calculator, right? Get it right. Even addition and multiplication, I think it's important to know how to do those. But you should do it on one of these to make sure you're getting an accurate number. There's a place near us where they actually do that. For whenever you buy something, they write out all the prices on a brown paper bag, add them up, and every time I'm sitting there and I'm adding up with them because they might make a mistake. They haven't yet, so there's that. Could you include information on Dice Star website on where each game has been placed on top 100 lists over time? Possibly, but that's a lot of work to go in to do that. How do you regard the social development of your kids? What do you do to stimulate this? I don't know what you mean exactly, but I assume you're giving me the argument people always use against homeschooling where your kids don't socialize, and that certainly is a valid thing to talk about. My kids get together with the other homeschoolers once every week on Tuesday. There's a big meetup. They all go there and do that. And there's occasional field trips where they go and do things, again, with other homeschoolers. In Florida, it's a law that if you want to be part of a sport, the local schools have to allow you to join those sports, so you can do that if you want to. And my kids also get social interaction from the kids and things at the church that we go to, and also in the neighborhood. From your past experience, about where do you think the Kickstarter is tracking to finish at? That I keep close to my chest. We'll find out when we're done. I can't give any details on Ready, Set, Bet High Rollers Edition. That's AEG's information to give out. Would you consider more videos directed to those new in hobby, not just a list of introductory games, but please teach me more of the terminology, game types, acronyms, etc. I try to spell things out when we talk about them. Sometimes I forget. But definitely we have those videos out already. I think there's a thing called Gaming Terms Explained. You go check out that video. What do you think of Hail Hydra now? Well, it's not lasted as long as I think so. I still like it, but it's all my social deduction games. But I think it's more of me fading on social deduction games in general rather than anything else. What game miniatures are getting painted currently for library? I have no idea. Have you played Ticket to Ride Legacy after the campaign ended? Well, I'm going to with my family, but we're still in the middle of the campaign. I played the campaign with the folks here. We haven't played it afterwards, but I will with my family when we get to it. How did you meet your staff? Well, Z I met from the game group. Roy I met because he started doing the segments for one of our short shows. Actually, Mike DeLisio the same way. I met both of them in person at conventions. Camilla I met because she came to our local game group and showed up at a thing. Chris and Wendy I met at MeepleCon, and also they did some things. But Kenny I met; he was a part of our local game group, and Lindsay I just straight up hired. That's how I met her. So most people I met for real by meeting them in person, but some of them I hired. Did I know them outside of Dice Star beforehand was the question, and some of them, yes. The calculator is one of the best inventions in history. I'm not arguing that one. See, there's the thing. I let my kids use calculators when they do math. Now, I don't let them use calculators to do 6 times 4. No. You memorize 6 times 4. But if they're doing, like, I got a couple of my kids in business math right now, use a calculator for that stuff. I want you to learn the concepts and how to use a calculator. Do I think the amount of games produced yearly has moved into the realm of quantity causing a decline in quality? No, I've never thought that. Yes, there's a ton more games, and yes, there's a lot of trash out there, but there's also a lot of great stuff. And we know this because if you look in the 90s, there was a lot fewer games being made, and they weren't all great. Still a lot of trash being made then. So, no. I think we say that to make ourselves feel better. We're like, oh, there's just so much stuff, and it's just trash. The hobby's not as good as it used to be. That's definitely old man talk. The hobby's as good as it ever was. Yes, if you ask me to pick a year, like the best years of the hobby, I'm going to pick around in various years. I would say 2012, and actually, coincidentally, 2022 was, maybe 2032 will be a great year too. I think those are the two of the top years in the hobby. 2004 was a great year. There's great years, but 2023, which we just went through, had a lot of fantastic, amazing games made in it. Was it one of the best years? I don't know. You have to more look back on that. I suspect not as strong as, well, for example, 2022 for me. But yeah, there's so many great games. The number of good games that are produced a year exceeds the number of games that were produced a year 20 years ago. So I think that we say, oh, games aren't as good as they used to be because it gives us an out. I get it. It's exhausting to look at the vast number of games that are out there that people can buy and or play. But that's why channels like us exist. We're there to help you cut through that noise. What's the worst version of Monopoly I've ever played? Bibleopoly. My top 3 pick up and deliver games. Thank you for the super chat, but I don't do top 3s in here on the Dice Tower. Sorry. We'll do a pick up and delivery game at some point. Do you have any superstitions like Lucky Rabbit's feet when the Kickstarter is going? No. When determining first player, do you use the weird how to choose a start player list in the rule book? I do indeed. Unless it's like the 3rd or 4th time and it's the same person every time, then we'll just randomize it. I do it different ways. Would I say that Horrified is a flash in the pan? No. What food do you miss most from your days living overseas? If you mean specifically living in Korea, the food I miss the most from Korea, tteokbokki, street tteokbokki, and street kimbap. And and ochinga, the dried squid that they have. I mean, I can get all this stuff to some degree. Very close to my 20 minutes from where my daughter lives in Tampa, they just opened up a Korean grocery store, which is fantastic. But it is, well, 4 hours and 20 minutes for me, so I'm not going there too often, unfortunately. What's my opinion of the recent Mythic Games CMON update? Well, I have mixed feelings on that. I mean, Mythic Games is obviously kind of a dumpster fire right now. But CMON buying out a couple games, Hell, The Last Saga, and the other one they bought, I forget, and doing that. That's good, and I appreciate CMON doing that. But once again, I'm not sure I like this idea of these Kickstarters being rescued. It's great for the consumer to some degree. But it just means that companies can do things that aren't great, get away with it, and let someone else pick up the pieces. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I mean, I'm glad it happens, and people should get second chances. I'm more interested in giving people second chances than I am giving companies second chances. But, yeah, well, if you want those games, you'll get them now, so that's good. And it increases CMON's repertoire quite a bit. Do you find that different types of games get played on the cruise? Yes. More welcoming games and kids' games get played in the cruise because there are more people there who are not gamers per se. They're there for the cruise, so they'll play stuff like that. I notice that your videos don't have any ads. Well, that's not quite true. We have ads on our videos sometimes. I would think with the amount of videos and views you get, we would make a ton of money from YouTube. We would not. You you would be surprised. YouTube does not pay out particularly well. We could get more money from YouTube if I stuck more ads in our things, but then why are we running the Kickstarter? So there has to be a balance there. Um, and just recently, we've had having more videos pop up in our live things, which we don't mean to have happen. So we're trying to fix that to figure out why YouTube has started inserting those and get those out because they kind of annoying, and I don't want to annoy people enough so that they don't support us. Have you ever done a show on games you've cooled on? I think it might be called Top 10 Turkeys. Do most of the Dice Tower group track their gameplay? I don't think so. The dried squid is rough. I tried it once and it was the fishiest thing I've ever tasted. Well, I don't think that's quite true. It's dried. But dry squid is definitely when you grow up on it, and my kids definitely did, and we had a lot of it in Korea. You get to really, really like it. Love the Pick Six games. No, that's gonna. Someone asked if me and Z are gonna do it. I mean, we might show up on Joey's list, but that's a show that Joey's running right now. Let's see here. Have you had random non-Dice Tower cruisers somehow ending up in the library playing games? Well, we don't allow it because I allow people to come in and look at the library. They're down there like, what is this? I'm like, well, come on in. I'll show it to you. But we can't let them play games because if we do so, we diminish the people who paid money for doing it. And believe it or not, there have been people who've booked the same cruise, not paid to come on the Dice Tower part of it, and then tried to come on the Dice Tower anyway. And I'm also responsible for what everyone does in the Dice Tower cruise. So if someone makes a mess or something in a spot, I'm the one blamed for that. So we let people look at stuff, but we don't let them play unless they have a badge. How many games are in the Dice Tower library these days? About 2,200. How many wear out each year? Not a ton, actually. They don't wear out too badly, but I'm constantly putting new games in, taking old games out. Have you had a chance to look at the new version of A Study in Emerald by CMON with a Cthulhu theme? Well, I mean, we played it live here on the channel, so yes. What kind of activities do you have at Dice Tower to promote gaming to youth? You mean here at Dice Tower, or do you mean at Dice Tower events? At Dice Tower events, for Dice Tower West and Dice Tower East and Dice Tower Cruise, we don't dissuade that. We have a kids section of games at the Cruise and at East for kids to play games. So I don't do a lot more beyond that. I do a kids version of Pitch Car at Dice Tower East. Have you had a chance to try the new Destiny's expansion? Came out in 2023. I did not get it, I don't believe. Weird, says Clark. He ignored the starting player mechanic question twice. Twice doesn't seem to be an oversight. Seems deliberate. Yeah, I don't answer every question in the Q&As. I'm sorry. Asking it multiple times doesn't make me start doing it. There's a lot of questions that I skip over. I answered one of the starting questions, and that's it for me right now. Let me see. I don't answer questions usually on when we plan to review a game. We do it or we don't do it. Let's see here. Did you watch Godzilla -1? I did. It was my favorite movie of last year. I really, really liked it. I pay to avoid ads. I also pay to avoid ads on YouTube. I'm always surprised. To me, that's the number one thing I do. I think for if I had to cut all the different streaming services, the last thing I would cut would be the YouTube ads. I really don't like them, so I cut them. Where can someone buy pitch car in the U.S. these days besides eBay? You just have to wait. I know what they do with pitch car is they wait till there's a demand for it, then they print it, then they let it go out of print. Then they print it. I know it's expensive to print all that wood and stuff. So all I can say to you is just keep an eye out for it when it comes out. That's the best thing you can do for it. Have you considered doing a Dice Tower event in the Midwest, or is the answer to just come see us at Gen Con? We just can only run so many events a year. Yes, a Dice Tower could run 8 to 10 events every year. We could, but then we wouldn't have videos for you all. And then why would people come to our events other than we're running good events? So 4 is already pushing us to our max, I promise you. There's so much effort and work that goes into those 4. My team does a great job, and we're very proud to do them. We just don't know that we can get a 5th one in there. How do you decide whether the votes of 2 different versions of a game should be merged for the people's top 100? I don't know. I just do what makes sense. Which bothers you more, hyper-competitive gamers or super unfocused gamers? Ooh, now that's a tough choice. I don't know. I think they're both equally annoying. Jay says it's weird watching normal cable ads after streaming services all about medicine and insurance. No kidding. How many top 10s does the Dice Tower do yearly? I haven't a clue. I mean, I would say on average it's probably 30 to 40, but I'm just making a wild guess. Do you do anything special for Super Bowl Sunday, or is it another Sunday for you? It's another Sunday for me. How many people total were on the cruise? The cruise ship, I don't know, was 4,500 or something like that. And we were 800 of that. I think the ship was sold out, but I'm not sure. What do you do if your game taste doesn't match your game group? I have a lot of games I want to play, but anything that takes longer than like an hour and a half, no one will play. Well, then start looking for people to play those games with you. I would put out ads in your area, look for people. You'll find somebody. Will the cruise be on the Icon of the Seas next year? Oh, no. Icon of the Seas is a marvelously cool ship, but it is remarkably expensive, and we cannot ask people to pay that much to go on the thing. Where did I get my upgrades for Power Grid? It's been a while since I got those. I want to say I got them from a company called Litco, maybe, but it's been a bit. I played Smartphone Inc. for the first time yesterday and decided to add it to my collection around turn 2. At what point does playing a game do you find yourself disliking a game? It's pretty funny. It almost always happens while reading the rules. So I'm reading the rules, I'm going through and going, oh, okay. Ooh. I don't know. It's something you can tell. And sometimes it comes later. After playing the game, you're like, I really like that. And sometimes the rules, but I'm telling you, sometimes I'm setting things up, I'm moving pieces around, I'm like, oh, this is good. I really like this. I don't know, there's that feeling you can get at the beginning. Does anyone on the cruise get seasick? I know people get seasick for sure. You can do a lot of things. Put something on your neck, take Dramamine. Some people wear bracelets. Everyone's different. Favorite scene in the Lord of the Rings trilogy is when the Riders of Rohan show up. Well, there's a lot of favorite scenes. I could probably do a top 10. When the Riders of Rohan show up at Gondor. That's one of them. You Bow to No One is definitely in the top 10. Legolas leaping and Gimli jumping off the ship. That's one. When Gandalf shows up with the relief force at to rescue the besieged people is one. There's a lot of great moments from that series. I really like Lord of the Rings. But it's probably the top two is You Bow to No One and when the riders are running the show. I almost fell out of my seat in excitement. I was like, it was just such an exciting scene. I don't do Twitch for a lot of reasons. One, because we had to focus on one thing, so we're focusing on YouTube. We tried to do both, and it didn't work out as well as I'd like it to. It's hard to build an audience on two different platforms at the same time. I personally don't like Twitch as a user interface because I find it to be annoying and, well, twitchy. The ads and everything, it's harder to find where things are. I just don't find it to be as focused. I understand it's the future, and a lot of people like it. So... demographics of those on the Dice Tower cruise, I really don't know. I know we have people from all different ages on the cruise, older folks, young folks, all different ages were on the cruise. Because that's one thing I found about a cruise, is that everybody likes it. If I reserve a room for Dice Tower cruise, can I upgrade to a stateroom? You can upgrade possibly, but you would have to email dicetowercruise@gmail.com about that. Jason can tell you, it's hard to upgrade. You want to pick the room that you want to get as soon as you can. General admittance to the cruise opens April 1st, so keep that in mind. Totally understand why you wouldn't jump into the pick six. I didn't say I wouldn't be in it. I might be on it, but it's Joey's show. 10 games like Magic the Gathering? Well, possibly, but again, I'm not going to duplicate effort there. Am I excited or interested at all in the new Star Wars trading card game? I'm not, actually. I'll play it. I guess I have some interest in it, but not a lot. When the elves come to fight at Helm's Deep is pretty good. I like that one a lot. My favorite scene in Star Wars? Oh, I know that. It's the sequence on the Jabba the Hutt, the sail barge. That whole sequence, I love it. I love everything about it. I don't know why. From the moment Luke looks, R2 shoots out the lightsaber, boom. And the music, just perfect. It's great. I don't really care about the Leia and the Jabba the Hutt stuff, but I like the other stuff, the fighting out there and everything with Boba Fett and everything. I really enjoyed that. Let's see here. You said you like reading. Oh, I love reading. What do you think of game books or choose your own adventure books? I like choose your own adventure books fine. I liked them more as a kid. Nowadays they're okay. I don't know what game books where you go through and play a game through it. Yeah, they're fine too, but I just like reading. The only way I managed to beat Melania was to use a player summon. I thought about that, but I'd be worried about bringing in another player and then dying because she hits me by accident. Out of all the Dice Tower meetup events, what's the best one to get maximum gaming in at? Well, I think probably it's the Dice Tower Retreat. Dice Tower Retreat sold out, but Dice Tower East and West, you can get a ton of games in at those too. However, I do want to point this out to you before I end here today. I'm going to end in a second. But if you are in South Florida anywhere, you want to go to biggamebashlive.com. Joey is running an event for the Gulf Coast Gaming Group there, but I'm going, and so are the different people. Some of the people here in Miami are heading over there. Last time there was like 150, 200 people gaming. It's great. I'm going to bring hot games in to play, games to test out. It's going to be fantastic. February 23rd and 24th. So if you're in the area at all, definitely consider coming to that. But you need to register now. So that website, once again, is biggamebashlive.com. So check it out. Alrighty. Well, that's it for today, folks. We'll be back at 1 to do our live. We'll play it live, where we play a game we've never played before for the first time. So anyway, Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys later. Until then, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. See you next time.